I said Joe. What up YouTube? My name is Rap. This is I Rap On Point and welcome back. But if you're new to the channel, how you doing? Thank you for being here. We are about to check out some more of AZ's content. I've been psyched about this one. It's 5 Unsolved Dead by Daylight Mysteries, and I see that he has another one called 5 more Unsolved Dead by Daylight Mysteries. So we're about to check all 10 of them out. And salutes to AZ, man. Y'all know I rock with AZ hard. His link will be in the description if you're not subscribed to his channel, along with my DBD family, my social medias. And if you would like to support the channel by becoming a member, that link will be in the description. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe, man. I'm trying to hit 5K subscribers by tomorrow. Smash that like, hit the notification bell so you don't miss an upload when I go live. And do I have anything else to say? No, I don't. Enough talk. We know what time it is. If y'all dig it and y'all with it, let me know, because we about to get into this video. So let's go.
Hey everyone, today I thought we'd dive into the lore and gameplay and look at some mysteries or questions that have never really been answered, but may have crossed your mind at some point.
I'm
going to briefly do my best to try and answer these. Let's get into it. Are the characters dead or just gone? This is a question I've always been pretty interested in. Whether the characters in game are technically dead, or as it's often referenced, have they just been taken from their universe? In the process of being taken into the realm, are the characters killed and resurrected in some form, or is it more of a process of the characters being reformed or repaired almost after each trial? In game there are multiple licensed characters who in their respective franchises were canonically killed, or dead, basically. For example, Bill, Tap, Pig, and Executioner, kind of. This isn't an issue unique to licensed characters though, as many original characters are moments before death, or potentially dead already.
Yeah, I mean, Tap did die in one of the movies, right? I mean, I forget. I have not seen like the Saw movies in such a long time, but I do believe Tap died. If I'm correct, I think Tap was Danny Glover, right? He was played by Danny Glover, and I think that fool died. And the new one called Spiral, that was Chris Rock, which he's related to Danny Glover or Tap, right? I need to watch these movies again, but yo, let's proceed.
As they're taken. Adam is in a train crash and is hit by a detached door.
Damn.
Jane is in a car accident, sliding off a road. And Elodie has been stabbed and is slowly bleeding out. Equally for killers, we have Spirit, who is cut to pieces and bleeding to death.
Yes.
Plague, who is on the brink of death from the plague. Oni, who is also bleeding to death in a stone mill. And Charlotte of the twins, who is freezing to death in the cold. Then we have Victor of the twins, who is literally completely dead before Charlotte is taken. This is a question I have, as I sometimes wonder what would happen if the survivors escaped, if the realm or the entity is the thing that saved them and keeps them alive, as it repairs the people who enter the realm. So upon returning, are they going to go back to their original state? It seems in the realm the characters no longer have physical bodies in the sense we understand, as they are constantly slashed, killed completely, and then reconstructed and brought back to life basically. Dead by Daylight's tagline is also, death is not an escape. This is referring more so to the trials and how you can die and then come back still in the realm. My opinion on this is that when characters are taken, their physical body is somewhat consumed by the entity and destroyed. From there I think it then reconstructs them in a certain way, removing injuries that may have occurred moments before their deaths, unless these injuries can be used to drive them, like in Spirit's case, acting as a reminder of their prior life. I think what remains of the characters is what could best be described as a soul, and so I think physically the characters are all dead in the realm, but their soul or their being is still the same one they had prior to being taken.
Yo, that's crazy. I mess with that theory. Yo, that's crazy, but it's a theory, right? This isn't actually facts. I think AZ's just explaining theories, but yo, that's sick. I like that.
Let me know what you think of this one. Next up, who are the pariahs? For this, I mean literally, who are they? As in, who is their group? If you didn't know, the pariahs were a group of teenagers and children of another group.
Hold on, let me read this. After a few weeks on the island, she met the pariahs, like-minded teenagers who had no interest in being pawns for their parents' political chessboard. Elodie. The fuck is a pariah? Yo, hold on, let me look that up. Alright, it says pariah, noun, an outcast. Alright, a member of a low caste, or yeah, caste, right, in southern India. I think I'm gonna go with this one. So it's an outcast. Ah, okay.
and children of another group named the Imperiati. The Imperiati supposedly were looking for the entity and its realm, using magical tools to try and locate and fight it. The pariah group is said to have had 5 members. 2 of these members we definitely know are in the group: Felix Richter and Elodie Rakoto. The other 3 members are uncertain, however—
Hold up, yo, y'all gotta tell me who's rocking the shades better here. Is it Felix or this is Elodie, right? There's gotta be Elodie. Yo, who y'all think rocking the shades like a gangster? I'ma go with Felix. I think Felix. The blue tint on them shades is fire. It goes with his little, you know, his collar, his button-up shirt underneath the sweater. Yo, what's up? Let me know.
Richter and Elodie Rakoto.
Also, hold up, I might have missed this. Let me see. Alright, every summer Felix would accompany his parents to the island where members of the Imperiati would encourage their children to network and forge lifelong connections. Ah, okay.
2 of these members we definitely know are in the group: Felix Richter and Elodie Rakoto. The other 3 members are uncertain, however the closest we've gotten to finding out a 3rd member is through the lore, where a character named Hattie Core has been mentioned quite frequently. Hattie does a similar thing in the lore to Elodie, but on a slightly larger scale, searching for the Black Veil and attempting to expose them. The Black Veil are an evil cult who worship the entity. The Black Veil are also the same group that caught Charlotte and Victor and experimented on them. Hattie seems to have powers of some kind and is seemingly psychic. Much like Felix and Elodie, Hattie's parents disappeared whilst on vacation, and possibly on an island when she was young. The event where Felix and Elodie's parents were taken was on vacation, and on an island named Dire Island, where the Imperiati would meet. The importance of the pariahs, I would argue, is that they're, first off, the most knowledgeable characters we know of in regard to the entity. Second, as a result, they're likely the best shot anyone in the realm has to get out, or to be saved. More on the pariahs could reveal 2 of the biggest mysteries of what is the entity and what is the realm. My counter-argument for Hattie being a pariah is that when her parents disappeared, she was 5, whereas both Felix and Elodie are teenagers, and further, the pariahs are. They're said to be a teenage group. With that said, I do think Hattie is probably a member. If not, she may have still been another child of the Imperiati, just slightly younger and not part of the pariahs. It could always be a crazy multiverse thing too, and she's a pariah just in a different universe. I think the outlining of her parents disappearing on vacation is too much of a coincidence and had to be intentional, especially given her powers and her similar goal of seeking out the entity. In terms of who the other 2 are, I have no idea honestly. Moving on, who exactly is Benedict Baker? This is a question I think most people have, even if you've only glanced at the lore a couple times. You'll see the name Benedict Baker appear quite often. What we don't know though is who Benedict Baker actually is, aside him seemingly knowing a substantial amount about the realm and those inside of it. To link back to the pariahs and the Imperiati briefly, it seems possible to me that Benedict had some link to them. In his journal he documents his attempts to find the entity's realm, investigating the town of Weeks where there's been many mysterious disappearances.
Alright, let me read this. I began my search in the summer of 1956 after hearing of the town of Weeks, a place that had an unusual number of missing persons reports. America is filled with such towns. Benedict Baker's journal.
The town of Weeks is the same town that the Trapper was situated in, and where the Macmillan estate was in the real world. Whilst he's there, he then goes to investigate the Macmillan estate, and he supposedly gets taken. It doesn't directly say that, but it's pretty heavily suggested. Upon entering the realm, he is quite confused, and his
Alright, I cannot explain what happened today. I awoke to find myself in this strange place. I have no memory of how I came here. My last recollection was of leaving Weatherfield and beginning my journey towards the Macmillan estate. Alright, let me go back a little bit. Let's go.
Upon entering the realm, he is quite confused, and his first question, linking back to my first question here, is, am I alive? From here on, he remains at the campfire and takes part in the trials.
Hold up, I want to read that. My bad. I like reading, y'all. Am I alive? I no longer know or care. I have tried to hike my way out of these forsaken woods to no avail.
In the trials. He then mentions the trials, survivors, killers, and even sitting by the campfire in his journal entries. However, despite all this, we never see him. He eventually gives up his journal after 49 entries, stating, "What is to become of me? Have the killers started out at this campfire too? I bid this journal adieu. I must focus on staying alive. And so, to the best of our knowledge, Benedict is alive. The question is, where is he? My go-to answer for who is Benedict is quite simple. I personally think he's just an early version of the Observer. Once the Observer began appearing in the game, Benedict kinda fell away and didn't appear anymore, not even to comment on the new killers arriving. And to be honest, prior to the release of Tomes, the lore was always very much in the back seat, and so it kinda makes sense to essentially rework Benedict. Benedict and the Observer share many similarities. They both desire knowledge and an escape. They both have journals or entries of some kind in the lore, and they both have prior knowledge of the entity before their arrival to the realm. So yeah, I just think Benedict was like a beta version of the Observer before there were plans to really expand on the tomes and the lore itself. Hey, maybe the Observer is actually called Benedict though, and they kinda merge the characters instead of just replacing them. Why don't the survivors fight back? This is a question you've almost definitely thought at one point or another.
I've asked that. Why? Like, come on, man. Out of all the survivors, you know there's gonna be a couple of them that are not gonna give a damn. They just gonna be like, what's up? What's up? Brrr, you know, and all that. So why don't we have survivors that fight back? I understand that. You know, I think Leon, he has a flashbang, but that's not fighting back. That's a distraction. But anyway, look, have y'all asked this question yourselves? Let me know in the comments. I ask this all the time. Like, why? Why can't we fight back? Damn!
Was playing the game. You climb into a locker, but why doesn't my survivor simply grab a hatchet or two, or a couple of those throwing knives? My answer to this is that I believe the survivors have been rewired, as it were, by the entity, and have been made incapable of touching or wielding these weapons. Maybe it's even like a Mjolnir situation, like with Thor, where there's magic that makes most people incapable of wielding the weapon. When we think about it as well, it's not like the survivors don't have anything to fight back with. Nowadays we have pallets, flashlights, head-on, decisive strike, blast mines, and flashbangs, the last two being like actual weapons. I think the difference between the two though is that these are all much more passive than the others. What adds to this confusion however is moments in trailers, for example. In the Resident Evil trailer, Jill is shown to wield a gun that fires bullets. We know this is taking place in the Realm 2 because of the palette for a start, but also because all four of these RE characters are together in the LPD. Canonically, Chris is in Europe, and Jill, Leon, and Claire all have misaligned stories whilst in Raccoon City, with the only direct overlap being Claire and Leon. Oh yeah, and also Meg's there. Now of course the argument for this is that, well, the trailers aren't canon. They're just a thing to show off the content. What happens in them isn't necessarily happening canonically in Dead by Daylight, which, yeah, I'd agree with. However, I think it's one of those things that does still add to the confusion. Equally to characters not wielding weapons, there's also the mystery of some of the characters being incredibly powerful in their own right, but not fighting back.
I think it would have been a dope idea if at least you're able to wield a gun with like minimal bullets, like at least 3. Or make it 2. You feel me? Like, and it would only stun the killers, because obviously you can't kill the killers. But I think that would have been dope. You feel me? Like, you just build, make it like a revolver or some shit. You feel me? Like, and that's it. That's it. And at the end, you could throw the pistol at them and run or some shit. But I don't know. I think that would have been cool.
Cheryl, Ash, Chris, Jill, Leon, Claire, and Bill, just to name a few, are all stronger than many of the killers, especially the more physically human ones like Legion or Trickster. So my best answer to survivors fighting back in some form is that basically they can't. Either they are punished too severely for attempting to fight back, or they have been rewired to some capacity, and so it doesn't even occur to them whilst in a trial. Maybe there's even some things or actions they literally physically cannot do whilst in the trials, like climbing, sitting, or speaking, for example. At the campfire, they seem to have far more autonomy over their bodies, having different poses, warming their hands, sitting down, potentially even speaking like in Ash's case. I think a lot like how the entity restricts the playable area, it restricts the survivors also, and so the lack of talking or fighting back is simply a canon thing. It's not a gameplay mechanic, it's just literally how the trials happen. When in the trials, the survivors simply cannot do these things, because the entity restricts them in some form. That's my personal take at least. Finally, who or what is the entity? This is a question that will likely always be a mystery. I really don't see this one ever getting truly solved, because this question essentially drives Dead by Daylight. The mystery of what the entity is, what it wants, what it's doing is kind of key, I feel, to Dead by Daylight's whole feel. I don't think this is a question that will be answered. From what we currently understand, the entity is a highly powerful ancient being that can reach into all corners of the multiverse, snatching people up and using them to farm emotion with its trials. It manifests physically as spider-like claws, and also its fog. In its own realm, it is seemingly capable of creating anything it wishes, having near complete control over other highly powerful characters. Its motivation, to the best of our knowledge, is to survive, and to continue feeding from the trials and the emotions they create. Its goals, I would argue, appear malicious, with all those that interact with it suffering in some way. I personally think that the entity isn't meant to be particularly nuanced. It's meant to simply represent this unstoppable evil force that can snatch people from wherever it pleases. A fog you cannot hide from. I think it's really that simple, and the entity is simply what it appears to be. I think it's just one of those cases where there's not much to it, despite its seeming complexity. It's just so big and so ancient, and its actions seem inherently evil from our human perspective, when more than likely this is just how the entity lives or exists, and has done for many years. Right, well, that's gonna do it. I do hope you enjoyed, and be sure to drop your own thoughts or answers to these mysteries down below. Thanks, and goodbye.
Alright, y'all, so we're gonna check out the other one, 5 more unsolved Dead by Daylight mysteries, so let's get at it, man. Let's go!
Hey everyone, today we're looking at 5 more unsolved mysteries
in
Dead by Daylight. Okay, so starting off, we have the question of who is and where is Vigo? Vigo is a character that has been in the lore for a while now, and he's a character who's supposedly escaped the realm. You've probably seen his name around in game.
I have not. Who the fuck is Vigo? Vigo? I have no idea who that is, man. I've never heard of that name in the game.
Items like Vigo's Shroud, Vigo's Blueprint, or his Jar of Salty Lips that appears as a luck offering. There are many outfits in game that also reference Vigo. Vigo's Apprentice for Dwight, Vigo's Pupil for Claudette, Vigo's Marauder for Jake, and Vigo's Disciple for Nia. Then there's also a bunch of other Survivor cosmetics that reference Vigo, all with the connecting theme of them being covered in this orange, blight-looking substance. Some of the cosmetics in their flavor text seem to account the survivors finding Vigo's lab, which is hidden somewhere in the realm. There are references.
Alright, so stumbling upon a derelict shack, he uncovered a hidden chest with strange glass vials. He took all he could carry. Vigo's Marauder? Is that how you say that? Jake. Huh. Okay.
Is in the rainbow map and the engineer's toolbox to Vigo creating better versions of the in-game items, but them being stolen and replaced with the less effective versions we have in-game by the fog or the entity. This is pretty interesting, as Vigo is also apparently the character who created the hatch, so these magical creations are possibly how Vigo escaped the realm. In Arcus 632, the Observer sees a memory of Vigo. Through a
Alright, through a oh, is he reading it?
rift, I believe I called another memory of Vigo, manifesting reality within the entity, with something reminiscent of the Aurus. How he came to understand the machinations of the fog is both puzzling and inspiring. It suggests to me that perhaps this place enhances one's connection to our infinite selves through the Omniverse. My first theory to who Vigo is he someone close to the character of the Blight, as the Blight appeared a bit like the survivors who have investigated Vigo's lab in the realm. In Blight's add-ons, we can see he has things referencing Vigo, such as...
So it says, I discovered a hidden laboratory while running away from a monster. Its stocks are uncommonly plentiful. I observed shelves of alkaloids, crates of silver syringes, piles of protective cloths or clothes, and a journal signed Vigo. Its pages are filled with notes on an ancient force that controls the nature of this place, that shapes it. I also noted a few drawings on the growing canters I've seen on trees. Huh?
is the Vigo's Journal add-on. This add-on is particularly interesting as its flavor text reads, "In a wasteland of forgotten dreams and endless routine, the man with a way out is God." And it's Talbot Grimes who says this, or the Blight. This suggests that Vigo has actually escaped the realm, and the Blight allowed him to do it. As in the substance, not the person, and is why Talbot was investigating his laboratory. Potentially Talbot even witnessed Vigo escape somehow. I believe it's possible that Vigo is potentially like a good version of the Blight, someone who has managed to study and harness the Blight without going as far as the Blight, where it became an obsession that overtakes him. As the killer side has the Blight, the survivor side has Vigo. So who he is unclear, but where he is, well, he's probably escaped the realm. Although even that is unclear, because we haven't witnessed or been told it ourselves. It's all been accounted through different people. But hey, it's probably the case. He probably actually has escaped.
Crazy!
Okay, now on to the pretty interesting question of how does time work in the entities realm? This one is super interesting, I think. I always see a lot of theorizing about how long the characters have been in the realm, or how long they perceive they've been in the realm. It's unclear whether Megsay has been in the realm for around 5 years, as she first appeared in 2016, or if she's actually been there for 30 years or 1,000. Or maybe for her, it feels like she just arrived. One interesting feature that Dead by Daylight had early on was Benedict Baker's journal, and the quotations from it. In the journal, all entries were stated to be during November of 1896. Personally, I never understood this date, because Benedict is supposedly taken into the realm after investigating the town of Weeks, which is stated to happen in the summer of 1956. This suggests to me that Benedict, whilst in the realm, has managed to discover the time, or a date of some kind, and that date is November 1896. But however long he waits, that date always remains the same. I think a bit like how the realm is made up of lots of different pockets, the way time works is also in this same pocketed fashion, and so it's always sitting in this same November 1896 pocket, on an infinite time loop, a bit like how the trials are infinite and repetitive. The devs have already stated that time in the realm is very weird and doesn't make much sense. I believe it was around the time the Plague or the Oni was introduced. They mentioned that just because a character came from ancient Babylon or the Edo period, this doesn't mean they arrived before the modern day characters. So a character like Dwight, say, canonically arrived in the realm before the Plague, who came from far further in the past. Time in the realm seems non-linear. What is interesting though, is it doesn't seem like we've had anything happen in the future yet. I've seen a few arguments for characters like Yui, Yunjin, or the Trickster's story being set in the near future due to the bright neon environments and cities, but personally I don't think there has been anything yet. At least there seems to have been no direct date in the future. This maybe suggests that the entity can reach into any point in time, but is still restricted by its own time and cannot reach into the future, only the past. Which hey, doesn't solve the question of how does time work, but it's certainly interesting that it can't break that future barrier. Next up, who is and where is the Observer?
Hey.
Now this is a question that isn't currently solved, but is one I believe will eventually be explained within the lore. If you didn't know, the Observer is a guy within the realm that lives in a spooky tower surrounded by fog and can see into the memories of survivors and killers with use of this thing called an Oris, which peers into the fog. He's the character we experience all the tome lore through. Despite him having the most amount of lore, or the most amount of lore from his perspective, we barely know anything about who he is and where he is within the realm. We do know a few things. We know he is from the universe or world known as Terra Primus. We know he or his
Hold on, let me read. I have discovered structures within the realms of the entity that reminded me of home. It is possible others from Terra Primus have found themselves marooned within an entity. These survivors could have with them knowledge to free me from this tower and possibly ideas on how to escape this internal dimension. Hey, let's go back a little bit. Let's go back.
Primus. We know he or his people were in search of the entity prior to him arriving in the realm. We also know that our Observer is not the first Observer, but
hold on, let me go back a little bit. The entity is the cosmetic embodiment of evil. Back home, we witnessed how its very presence turns worlds inside out. At least the archives affords me a better understanding of the entity.
Not the first Observer, but there's been a bunch of Observers.
I am going through some past scribblings and the notes of the previous unknown occupants, and I realized I should at least try to organize them. Reading these notes, I decipher several voices who I am aptly calling the unknown few who, like myself, had a fixation with the entity and who, like myself, had an ability to experience the memories encoded in the fog.
Hey, maybe Benedict could have even been one of these past observers. Finally, our current observer often claims to be a prisoner, and trapped within his tower by the fog. The easier question between where and who he is where he is. It's pretty likely that the observer's tower is simply in one of the many different sub-realms or pockets within the broader realm. The question is though, why can't the entity just kill the observer if he's literally within its realm somewhere? Because we know the entity does want to kill the observer. The fog is even outside the observer's tower, and the fog often represents the entity, so why can't it just reach in and get him? It seems there is some kind of magical or protective quality to the tower, possibly another one of Vigo's creations, who knows? For who the observer is, I'm of the belief that he is someone in relation to someone else, if that makes sense. I think he's Felix's father personally. They both hold the resemblance, and we know that Felix's parents were also taken or killed by the entity and fought it with magical tools. The observer looks kinda like him, is in the realm, and has the magical auris, which is a kind of tool. The reason for the observer not knowing who Felix is could be due to the memory loss that many suffer upon entering the realm. Let me know what you think of this one.
Interesting.
Okay, so this is a question that I've seen in a few recent videos. Why doesn't the entity just take loads of people? So the realm is powered off of emotions, so why not just bring in a couple thousand people instead of the 50 odd that we currently have? I think this is a completely fair question to ask. If the realm is powered by emotion and humans are a good source of it, why not just bundle in as many people the entity can get into the trials? I have two main explanations for this one. First off, the survivors and killers in the realm are very carefully selected, it seems. The entity doesn't just take anyone in. This can be evidenced by it initially planning to take Evan, or the trapper's father, Archie, instead, but changing its mind when seeing more potential in Evan. Same with Rin or the Spirit, it wanted her father initially, but changed its mind, or choice at the last moment. We also know that in most cases, before a character is taken, they are almost stalked by the entity for a good while before the entity makes a move. For characters like Nurse, Wraith, Artist, or Trapper, to name a few, the entity appears to watch over their lives for a good decade or few decades before it actually takes them. There could easily be even more people the entity has watched and whispered to, but has never taken, because they don't meet a certain criteria. I think this caution shows that the choices the entity does make are important, and everyone in the realm is suited specifically to powering the realm in a unique way. No character there is a rushed pick, as it were. The only case where it maybe was a rushed pick was with Rin, but maybe there was such great potential there, and so little time before she died, that the entity simply had to take her in that moment. My other direction for this is that the entity takes so long and takes so few because it needs to be careful of those attempting to find and hunt it. The Imperiati, the Pariahs, Hadi, Talbot, who succeeded. There's a bunch of people who want to get into the realm or destroy it, so maybe it's a risk factor thing too. Sure, the entity is powerful, but we can assume if the trials are disrupted in any way, it has an effect on it. If it has to go off or fight off a bunch of people trying to destroy it, it's more energy being used, and a greater likelihood it's found by people attempting to find it. It doesn't take long, for example, for the Pariahs to locate a bunch of different entity happenings, so it has to stay sneaky enough as to not make the few that have seen it take someone be believed by a wider group. That's my thoughts, at least.
Okay.
Let me know what you think too. My final question is a bit of a weird one, but I think it's cool, so whatever. What are updates to the realm? By this I mean, what exactly is happening to the realm when an update is released to the game? For example, some of the bigger ones being the Realm Beyond updates, that completely change the visuals and layouts of some maps. Sure, this can be written off as just being a gameplay thing, which is totally the case, but I thought it'd be fun to theorize about what these updates are within the universe itself. I kinda like the idea that with each survivor or killer the entity takes, the more powerful it grows, and so the realm itself adapts with it. So for each Realm Beyond update, the entity was growing in power, gaining more detail detail, more materials, and generally just a higher quality version of its realm. I think it's interesting to apply this to perks like boon perks too. The idea that the entity had to wait for a while before introducing boons, as it needed the realm to be more stable, or it needed to be more powerful to sustain them. We can also possibly attribute different happenings like Hawkins being removed as a result of the entity becoming overwhelmed after Pinhead and Michaela came to the realm. Two powerful characters who it found very hard to sustain possibly. I realize this one isn't even meant to have an in-universe reasoning, but I think it's cool to theorize regardless about how and why the realm adapts and changes in-universe. Yep, this is my silly unanswerable one, like the entity one last time. Alright, well that's gonna do it. I do hope you enjoyed, and be sure to drop your own thoughts on this down below. Thanks, and goodbye.
Alright y'all, so I'm going to end the video right here. Let me know what you think about the theories that AZ was talking about. I actually like the weapon one, the why can't we fight back. Makes sense, but I still think it's a little bit dumb. Like, come on, man. Leon, Detective Tab, everybody from Resident Evil, they're all fighters. They're all like military trained. Well, I think Leon's a cop. Come on, man. Come on, they gotta fight back. But yo, salutes to AZ. His link will be in the description. If you are not subscribed to this channel, I say you do so. This fool uploads gangster shit that I always enjoy. And yeah, like I said, let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you are new, please subscribe. I'm trying to hit 5K subscribers by tomorrow. Smash that like, hit the notification bell so you don't miss an upload when I go live. If you would like to follow me on my social medias, if you would like to become a member of the channel to support, all that will be in the description. I appreciate your time. I hope y'all keeping the positive vibes up and the negative shit out. And with that, I'm out. So stay safe, stay blessed, always rap on point. Wash your hands, wash your ass, peace, and unity. Till next time. Adios.